Horror fans might hate me for saying this, but Rob Zombie's Halloween is not as big of a failure as people say it is. In fact, it's one of the most misunderstood films in the entire Halloween franchise. When it was released, fans rejected it for being too aggressive, too ugly, and too obsessed with Michael Myers' origin story, and honestly, I get why. Compared to John Carpenter's perfect 1978 original, this movie can maybe feel a little bit confrontational, dirty, aggressive, and just over the top. But what if Rob Zombie was never trying to remake John Carpenter's Halloween at all? When you stop judging this film by Carpenter's rules and meet it on its own terms, it's one of the most emotionally jarring, intense Halloween movies that we've ever seen, and I don't think it's getting the credit it deserves. In this video, I want to break down why Rob Zombie's Halloween deserves more appreciation and why it stands as one of the most emotionally raw interpretations of Michael Myers that we've ever gotten. The most divisive choice in Rob Zombie's Halloween is the decision to explore Michael Myers' childhood. For many fans, this was unforgivable. Michael Myers is supposed to be mysterious. He's supposed to be the pure embodiment of evil, the shape, a force of nature that nobody really understands. Giving him a backstory, they argue, strips away the mystery and weakens the horror. Even John Carpenter had to say a very similar thing about Zombie's film.
I thought that he took away the mystique of the story by explaining too much about the guy. I don't care about that.
You know what? John Carpenter, a lot of Halloween fans, they're right. The mystique is what makes Michael Myers the most iconic character of all time. That's what makes him so terrifying, and that's what made John Carpenter's vision so powerful. But honestly, I don't think that Zombie was going for that same vision and version of Michael Myers. His approach in this and in many of his other films often focus on characters who have been shaped or affected by neglect and violence and just very rough environments. So when Zombie explores Michael's childhood, he isn't trying to solve or soften the character. He's showing what happens when a child grows up in a very cruel and horrible environment. It's not the same Michael Myers, but it's a deliberate attempt at a different version of him. Zombie reframes Michael not as an abstract force of evil, but as a product of an ugly and harsh world. Instead of fearing the unknown, we're faced with something that feels a little bit more uncomfortable and harder to digest, and that's a monster that's created right before us. This approach turns Michael's transformation into a tragedy. We aren't watching a boy destined to be evil, we're watching someone slowly morphed by his surroundings until violence becomes really the only language that he knows. Any discussion of Rob Zombie's Halloween always will lead back to a comparison to John Carpenter's original from 1978. It's just bound to happen. Carpenter's film is built on restraint, long takes, minimal dialogue, and a slow creeping sense of dread. Michael Myers is frightening because we don't understand him. He's more idea than he is a man. Zombie goes in the complete opposite direction. His film is immediate, confrontational, raw, and from the opening act, it just throws us into the chaos. There's no slow burn, there's only pressure that just builds and builds over time until the end of this movie. So instead of mystery, Zombie gives us context. While Halloween 1978 is my favorite movie of all time and always will be, it doesn't mean that Rob Zombie's reimagining is bad. They're just operating under different types or philosophies of horror. Carpenter created a myth, Zombie tells a tragedy. The mistake many people make, though, is judging Zombie's film by Carpenter's rules. When you stop asking it to be subtle and allow it to be what it is, loud, ugly, and emotionally overwhelming, it becomes a lot easier to appreciate what Rob Zombie was trying to do with this movie. One of the biggest misunderstandings about Rob Zombie's Halloween is this idea that the violence exists simply for shock value. In Zombie's world, the brutality is not just a decoration or some extra flair that he adds to his movie. It really is working as a character. The violence is messy, uncomfortable, and exhausting. It isn't stylized or playful like many slasher sequels. It feels very human, real, and it's quite ugly. And that brutality is inseparable from Michael's psychology. It reflects the neglect, anger, and chaos that shaped him. As Michael grows older, the violence changes and it becomes more real, more raw, more intense, and honestly, in a lot of moments, pretty hard to watch. This is why the film feels harsher than Carpenter's original. Zombie's not presenting Michael as some supernatural myth drifting through the suburbs. He's showing us the violent world that forges a monster. For many viewers, that might be too much, and that reaction makes sense. Zombie does not want the violence to be fun, he wants it to be felt. We can't talk about the brutality of this film without mentioning Tyler Mane as Michael Myers, who to me is the most horrific and terrifying person to have played the character. Mane's background as a professional wrestler and standing at the height of 6 feet 9 inches really makes him the perfect candidate as an unstoppable force of nature. He doesn't just look tall in this movie, he looks like he is inescapable, something that cannot be reasoned with or outrun. A perfect example of this is the truck stop bathroom scene. On paper, it sounds maybe a little bit absurd, and it's kind of goofy. Ken Foree's character is in the bathroom stall, taking care of business, but the execution of this scene is absolutely terrifying. Ken Foree reportedly told Tyler Mane to not hold back, to go all out, and that he did. All of these hits and the struggle that we see on screen feels and looks very real. I mean, the bathroom stall gets ripped off of the wall, and that was not planned. That happened because Tyler Mane was going as hard as he possibly could. And that physicality carries throughout the film, from the chaotic asylum breakout to the relentless final act of the film. The moment Michael enters a scene, the tension is there, and you don't wonder if somebody's going to survive. You basically are asking yourself, how long do they have? Because they are not going to escape. I will say though, aside from the physicality, what makes Mane's performance so impressive is that he manages to keep that mysterious movement that Michael is known to have. He almost is able to float from one place to another and move in this silence. Despite him being such a huge physical being in this movie, he still has that boogeyman quality to him that just kind of creeps in the background, and it really pays off well in this. I must say, the look of Rob Zombie's Halloween might be one of the most underappreciated aspects of it. The movie and story are not just ugly and raw, but it is designed that way and looks that way on purpose. The cinematography leans into a lot of harsh lighting, deep shadows, grain, desaturated colors, and a lot of handheld work. There's not a lot of visual comfort here. The suburban spaces feel very claustrophobic, hallways are oppressive, and the nighttime scenes are just very suffocating. So the grime and the grain and the shaky cam, all of that stuff that feels imperfect is by choice, and it really matches the tone of the movie, which is human and raw and very emotional and at a lot of times intense. The third act of this movie is where this film really commits to its identity. It is absolutely relentless. Michael is not stalking anymore. He is forcing his way through walls, doors, and bodies, and the space becomes like a pressure cooker of fear. But what elevates this finale is the emotion underneath the violence. Michael isn't just killing randomly, he's trying to reconnect. His pursuit of Laurie is driven by a twisted, broken idea of family. When he reaches out to her, when he tries to show her the photograph, there's a brief, devastating moment of humanity. For just a moment, the monster hesitates, and that moment reframes everything. The fear that Laurie has is no longer just about survival, but she's in a way forced to confront who she is and who her family is. I mean, the screams at the end of this film and seeing that Super 8 tape play at the end, it's haunting. So I hope I've convinced you that there is far more to Rob Zombie's Halloween than excessive violence and crude dialogue. Beneath the grime is a carefully constructed tragedy about trauma, family, and the making of a monster. I don't think this movie is trying to replace Carpenter's 1978 classic. That's always going to be my favorite movie, and you know, I wouldn't even say this movie's competing with it. It simply exists alongside it as just a louder, uglier, more emotionally raw interpretation of the same myth. From the exploration of Michael's childhood to Tyler Mane's physical and terrifying presence to the heartbreaking finale at the end of this movie, all of these creative choices really serve Rob Zombie's vision for this story of Michael Myers. You don't have to prefer this version to John Carpenter's, I certainly don't, but I appreciate it. If you're able to meet it on its own terms, free from the nostalgia and expectations that the original film sets, you might discover a bold film that adds something meaningful to the Halloween legacy. My hope is that more fans will give Rob Zombie's Halloween another chance, not as a remake to be judged, but maybe as a reimagining that's meant to be a little bit more understood.